WLBB Community Voice here on News Talk 1330, FM 106.3, streaming live online at newstalk1330.com. Sorry, Josh, I didn't turn my mic up there quick enough. My name's Colin Worthington, and on this morning's program, two handsome young gentlemen. Sitting to my left, his name's Jack Browning. He's the Tallapoosa Judicial Circuit District Attorney, been that since 2012. Previously served as a Chief Assistant Public Defender for Haralson and Polk counties, as well as County Attorney for Haralson County, while also practicing law for the Bremen-based firm Murphy & Garner. He was awarded the 2022 District Attorney of the Year. Not too shabby. Yeah. And he recently announced that he will not seek re-election in 2024. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Sitting to my right, Herb Cranford. He served as District Attorney for the Coweta Judicial Circuit, comprised of Carroll, Coweta, Heard, Meriwether, and Troup counties since 2018. In July of 2021, Supreme Court of Georgia and President of the State Bar appointed Herb to serve on the State Disciplinary Board. And his favorite color is blue. His favorite rock band is Strawberry Alarm Clock, and he enjoys walks on the beach with a special someone. Herb Cranford, our guest this morning. Told you need to put it together a bio, guys. Otherwise, you got to make some stuff up.
That was pretty good.
Good, all right. Yeah. Strawberry Alarm Clock.
Never heard
pulled that one out. You probably heard of him, right, Jack?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know the guitar player who wrote Sweet Home Alabama played in that band.
Get out. How about you? You know what? I think I read that recently.
Was the guitar player for Leonard Skinner, and he came from that band.
You know, I'd much rather talk about music for a whole half hour.
I'd learned something this early.
If that's all right. Yeah. Well, let's start with Jack. Jack, you did announce you won't seek re-election next year. Talk about that decision and what are you going to do?
Well, that's right. My wife just recently retired. She was in education. She was the assistant superintendent over in Paulding for years, and she just retired this past year. And now she's at home waiting on me to do the same. So.
But after like a month of you guys being together, locked up, is that are you prepared for that?
You don't go there.
Okay.
Please don't.
But that decision, I mean, was it an easy decision for you? I mean, you just said, hey, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's something my wife and I have been planning. We're big planners, and it's something that we've been planning on for a while. And so rather than, so I'll retire at age 60, and at the end of my term next December, I'll be 59 and a half. So rather than run another term, I decided it'd be a good time to go ahead and look at transitioning. I owe that to the community. I also owe that to my office, as opposed to, getting reelected and then saying, "Okay, I'm done. I'm leaving." So hopefully, my chief assistant district attorney, he has announced he is going to run. His name Jason Smith, well known in the community, both in Haralson and Polk, and hopefully the people in the counties will get behind him and give him their support. And
what do you have to do for like the next year? What do you hope to accomplish, or what do you need to finish up in that last year?
Well, unlike most folks who are looking to retire, I am not bringing the plane in for a landing. I am taking off. In fact, when I leave here today, I'm going to be out in the field with the GBI and my investigator. We are getting prepared to try a murder case in Polk County probably around September, and it's an unusual case in that we don't have the body. So those cases don't come along very often, but we feel like we have sufficient evidence to go forward on the case. So I'm kind of a hands-on DA. I spend a lot of time in the courtroom and out in the field chasing down folks to come into court to testify.
I mean, that seems like an easy defense. I mean, that's the defense you go is like, there's no body. How do you prove it? But you believe there's some evidence to show that.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I know you guys don't want to talk about specific cases. At least Herb does. And anytime I call Herb about a case, it's like, we'll don't speak about that case until it's finished. Again, Herb Cranford. He's been the DA for the Coweta Judicial Circuit since 2018, and it's a coincidence. I'd reached out to Herb about this a couple weeks ago, and then I spoke with you in detail about this. Coincidence is that today, Brian Kemp, joined by First Lady Marty Kemp and other state local leaders, will sign Senate Bill 92, which creates an oversight mechanism for district attorneys and solicitors general across Georgia to ensure accountability and upholding constitutional and statutory duties. I want to talk about where that came from, but what happened? Who handled that before this was created?
I don't think there was. Part of the point of this legislation was there was nothing that fit that bill, before this.
Well, give us a little bit of the background on this one.
I think it's fair to say this is roughly modeled after what's called the Judicial Qualifications Commission. That's a bureaucratic entity that is empowered to scrutinize complaints against judges to determine if they violated the ethical rules that apply to judges. Like I said, there was not an entity in place for elected prosecutors, solicitors general, and district attorneys.
Is anything shady? It just went to the law.
Part of the argument against the bill was that, look, bad behavior of DAs can already be addressed. If a lawyer ethical rule is violated, the state bar could handle it. If a DA commits a crime, it could be prosecuted. Part of my argument for, and the DAs that supported the bill, in supporting it, we said, I don't think all types of bad behavior are addressable with current mechanisms. So probably the best example of that, unfortunately, comes out of Paulding County, where a former DA, not the current DA, but a former DA, got in a lot of trouble for sexual harassment of employees. He ends up getting the county sued for 6 figures. And as wrong and bad as that was, there was no mechanism to address that. Right, he got sued, but there was no, the voters had to wait till the next election to address that, right? And so I think that's just one good example of why this new commission that the governor is going to be signing into law today is necessary.
Is that going to, once you sign it into law, I guess it'll start maybe in July 1st? Is that the way it works out?
Actually, I can't remember the effective dates. I mean, there's some things that have to happen before the commission can really get going. The law requires the creation of, I guess you would call it a canon of ethics, a code of conduct for prosecutors. So DAs, solicitors, the prosecuting attorneys council, we've all got the opportunity to have some input on what that code of conduct is going to be, and then the various entities that make appointments to this commission have to do so.
Is there any concern about that being real political? It's an elected office, so is there any concern about that? How's that board put together?
Yeah, I mean, I decided to support this legislation back in 2021 in some early iterations of it. The whole time I've supported it, I have also said I have concern about creating a state bureaucracy that has the power to remove, elected constitutional officers from office, right? Like that's a general concern. But on balance, I said, even with that concern, I think this commission is needed, and so I decided to support it. So one of the things that all the DAs in support of the bill did, and 21 of us out of 50 DAs decided to publicly support it, was trying to work with the legislature to create the commission to kind of inoculate it against that concern of being weaponized politically, things like that. And I think we were successful in doing so. I mean, the legislature really listened to us and worked well with us. So one of the big things we wanted to do, there's an investigative panel that investigates a complaint against a DA. Then there's a hearing panel that reviews the investigation to determine if the code of conduct was violated, and if it was violated, what should be the consequence of it. The legislation requires people with real prosecution experience to be on both of those panels. It requires people with elected DA experience, if not a currently elected DA, to be on each of those panels. The judge that's on the hearing panel has to have DA or Solicitor General experience. So putting people on the commission that have the actual experience of what Jack and I do on a daily basis, because I believe it is a unique job. I was an assistant DA. I did not appreciate what the job of DA was when I was an assistant DA. Jack could probably speak to when he was in the public defender's office, whether he could fully appreciate what the DA did. So knowing that we're going to have people, a jury of our peers, so to speak, on this commission was very important. And the fact that the legislature put that into law makes me feel very comfortable about about this commission.
The two men on our program this morning, they prosecute crimes in, I think, a total of 7 counties. Is it 5 and 2?
That's correct.
These guys together, and it's the majority of our listening area. Before I do take my first break, Jack, in your bio, you've got the background of a criminal defense attorney as well. Is that unique for a prosecuting attorney, for a district attorney to have had that background? And I mean, because obviously you're not going to make as much money as a defense attorney, right?
Well, I did work for the public defender's office, so,
okay.
But I did do it. I did do it as a privately retained counsel for a while as well. But it really wasn't that odd of a transition as it may seem, because as Herb will tell you, when we prosecute cases, the first thing we do is defend them. And then as a defense attorney, the first thing I did when I was preparing a case was prosecute it. So you gain an understanding of both sides of the case and understand, and that's how you evaluate the case, the strengths, the merits of it.
So since it was very beneficial then, actually.
You bring both of that to the table. So the transition was probably not as odd as it may seem to someone who doesn't practice law.
That would be me. Jack Brownie, Herb Cranford, our guests on this morning's Community Voice program. I forgot to mention we're on the News Talk 1330 WLBB Facebook page, so if you have any questions or comments, you can post them up there, and I'll take a look-see during the break and share that information with these fine gentlemen. Also have a bunch of other questions that we will continue in about a minute, 20 seconds here on the Community Voice program, brought to you by Tanner Health System and Oak Mountain Academy.
Health is a journey. It's making better choices, even when it's not easy. It's taking care of yourself and the people you love. At Tanner Health System, we're there for you with every step, with primary care, heart care, cancer care, women's care, orthopedics, surgical services, and so much more. We're dedicated to helping you live and feel your best. So let's get on that journey to health. You've got places to be for many years to come. Find us at tanner.org.
I'm Michael Flynn, Oak Mountain Academy class of 1978.
Katie Flynn, class of 2010.
Justin Flynn, class of 2014.
Logan Flynn, class of 2019.
And I'm Marnie Flynn, current teacher at OMA.
My uncle Richard Owen Flynn, a founding father of Oak Mountain Academy, had a vision to see students become confident leaders who hold a faith-based value system in an academically rigorous environment. We are proud to celebrate 60 years of fulfilling my uncle's vision.
Our family invites you to visit the campus or oakmountain.us today.
842, welcome back to the WLBB Community Voice, News Talk 1330, FM 106.3, streaming live online at newstalk1330.com, and this morning we're on the News Talk 1330 WLBB Facebook page. Good morning. My name's Colin. Our guests this morning, Tallapoosa Judicial Circuit District Attorney since 2012, Jack Brownie, and sitting to my right is District Attorney for Coweta Judicial Circuit since 2018. His name is Herb Cranford. Herb, a few years back, you were, I think you were leading a campaign or discussing a campaign to see if we could split the circuit, because of the benefit that would, get a lot of cases out, taken care of faster. And then there was a survey done, and they decided, no, we're not going to do that. How's that developed over the last couple of years?
I remain in favor of splitting the Coweta Judicial Circuit. Carroll County Sheriff Terry Langley has told me to tell everyone I talk to about it that he strongly supports splitting the Coweta Judicial Circuit. In the past few weeks, the county commissions of Coweta, Troup, and Meriwether have passed resolutions asking our legislative delegation to split the circuit up. Those three commissions have asked Coweta, Meriwether, and Troup to remain the Coweta circuit, which would make Carroll and Heard a new circuit. Sheriff Langley has told me he supports that as well. So I'm in discussions with Carroll and Heard County about whether they want to do something similar. At the end of the day, it requires legislation at the state capitol. So, best case scenario, we get legislation discussed and voted on in the next session in January.
Is the I guess I could see the benefit of it, but is there a drawback? I mean, why wouldn't Carroll County want to do that? Because it would cost. We have to pay for a new district attorney.
The state would have to pay for a new district attorney. Yeah. So one of the benefits is every DA's office gets a certain number of personnel funded by the state of Georgia. So when you take these 5 counties with one DA's office and then you make a second DA's office, it almost doubles the number of state-funded DA personnel over the same geographic area. And the more DA personnel you have, the more cases you can resolve. And
that's the key.
Yeah. So what's the opposition to it? You'd have to find somebody opposed to it and bring them on. I don't personally. I don't know of a good reason.
What's the backlog of cases right now, and what's the longest case maybe that somebody's still sitting in jail, or maybe they're out on bond? But how far back does that go?
I think we've done a pretty good job of prioritizing cases involving inmates. So what's the longest serving inmate in the circuit? I couldn't tell you, but we've recently been trying cases of crimes committed in like 2021. So just to give you a sense of kind of how far behind we are. In December of 2019, before COVID, there were a little more than 4,000 open cases circuit-wide, meaning cases waiting to be reviewed for indictment or cases that had been indicted but not yet resolved. Now there are over 10,000, and I've got roughly the same number of people in my office. And what happened in a nutshell was, because of COVID, we couldn't have jury trials, and jury trials are the engine of the criminal justice system. People generally don't want to be held accountable for their commission of a felony, generally, right? It is the prospect of 12 random people in your community holding you accountable that forces people to take responsibility themselves.
And when there's jury trials, or there aren't jury trials, I would assume the defense attorney would find out. Why going into a plea deal or something at that point when there's not? So they weren't hurried to get.
I think probably most lawyers would agree. Delay 99% of the time is to the advantage of the defendant. You lose contact with witnesses. Evidence grows old.
People lose interest.
Yeah, victim may.
Right, yeah. Forget things, yeah.
When I was a defense attorney, that was the biggest tool in my tool bag was delay.
Yeah.
And that's probably a benefit coming to the DA's office from having been a defense attorney. I know that, I recognize that, and know how to deal with it.
How about your backlog in
probably about the same to probably
percentage, maybe?
Relatively speaking, a lesser number, but we're in a similar situation as Herb is in his circuit. We've made a lot of progress in trying to get caught up and get past that backlog that was created by COVID. It's an uphill battle, but I think we've made a good bit of progress in doing away with those cases. I've got one pending death penalty case that is still the victim of COVID, but the delay in that has to do with a different agency that provides the defense for folks who are charged in a death penalty case, and they've had their, no agency has been immune from COVID and the employment challenges that came on the heels of that. So they've been dealing with it as well. So been a lot of turnover, and that's caused that particular case to get delayed. But this is not just any one agency's problem. It's not the DA's office problem. It's not the judge's problem. It's not public defender's problem. It's just kind of a characteristic of where we are as a court system right now post-COVID, but it is returning.
I do want to ask you about that death penalty case, or just how you come to that decision. But as far as we think about law enforcement, they talk about it a lot. Government offices talk about it a lot, how it's hard to recruit and keep employees. Are you guys seeing the same thing as far as prosecutors, assistants?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I used to get, when I first took office, for any given position, be it a secretarial position or an assistant DA position, I would get anywhere from 20 to 40 resumes. Now I'm lucky to get 2.
Why is that?
I don't know. You tell me. You could ask the same question.
Is it the money? Is it because
you
defense attorneys?
You could ask the same question to the folks, the manager at McDonald's or dentist office or wherever. Everybody is having the same issue in terms of recruitment and hiring. And if somebody knows the answer to that, let me know.
You mentioned that death penalty case, and I guess not specifics, but when was the last time a death penalty case was tried in the Tallapoosa Judicial Circuit?
I can't tell you. I had one that was on the eve of trial, and he pled to He pled guilty to life without parole.
Yeah.
That was the killing of the police officer in Polk County. And now this one is currently pending.
Yeah, well, it's obviously a big decision to make. I mean, how do you come to that decision to try it that way?
Well, I mean, first of all, you're guided by statutory factors. We have what are called statutory aggravating factors that the facts of the case have to meet certain criteria before.
But that's a standard criteria, or is that your personal?
Well, no. It's not personal. I mean, you go to the statute that provides there are certain. I think there's 8 or 9 of them that there are certain statutory aggravating factors that must exist by the facts of the case that will support seeking the death penalty.
And Herb, I think I talked with you about this about a year ago. What's we couldn't find where Coweta Judicial Circuit's last death penalty case was. I know you don't want to talk about any specific cases, but I mean, how do you? I mean, is it the same kind of process when determining if there's a case? I mean, there is a case out there right now that I think the community has probably called on that and probably encouraged your office to consider that. But what do you have to go through to make that kind of decision?
I mean, echoing what Jack said, I mean, first of all, it's got to be a murder, right, at minimum. But not every murder statutorily qualifies. So, if it's a murder, then you go to the statute. Do you have those aggravating factors that under law allow you to even pursue it? And then, at least for me, I think a next question is, what do I think the likelihood is of actually getting a death sentence in this case?
Is that just based on the jury? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, that's a judgment call, and I mean, you've got to convince a jury unanimously to give death. And part of the difficulty of that, as I see it anyways, in the jury selection process, to be an eligible juror, you have to say that you are willing to not give death and give death. So the people in the community that hear about a case that are strong for this guy needs the death penalty, they wouldn't be an eligible juror unless they were also genuinely able to say, I would consider life as a sentence. So you got to game it out that way, at least the way I think about it. And so ultimately it's a decision the DA, him or herself, has to make. It's that's one of the very solemn duties we're elected to do, and I think that's a judgment call that I have to make on my own.
That brings it back to, we were talking about the prosecutorial oversight bill. I mean, you're seeing the uniqueness of, and that's just an example of the uniqueness of our job. The public's confidence in our court system is dependent upon the people that are in place to make that system work. And you, first and foremost, there's nothing that brings or that will undermine that confidence more than actions that bring disrepute to the office. Going back to the Paulding County thing, but there are a variety of things that can undermine the public's confidence in the judicial system, of which we are a part of. And so, as we're sitting here talking to you about death penalty case, what should be apparent is we just don't go out here and, there's a murder, we're just gonna seek the death penalty on everything. First of all, that would not be ethical on our part, because there are laws that we have to follow that guide our decision making. And so that's that way. I think I told you back when we were talking about this bill, judges have an oversight commission, and that is in large part, I would like to believe, is because the decisions they make affect people's lives. I mean, they can change people's lives. We're in a lot of ways no different than that. And if we are going to seek to take somebody's liberties, well, we need to be dotting every I and crossing every T. And if we're doing that, why would we be worried or concerned about having an oversight commission? And to Herb's point, when the bill was being passed, to make sure that this was not a politicized or it was weaponized for political purposes, I think the bill did a good job of allowing us to continue to do our job without it being personal, without it being political, but yet making sure we're doing our job in a way that maintains the confidence of the public in what we do.
I'm going to look up that statute. I probably can just Google death penalty statute, Georgia, right? I probably can find that information.
Probably. Yeah.
And I looked this up before the show. Georgia has employed capital punishment since colonial times. Executions recorded at least as early as 1735. And some of those charges where the suspects were executed: murder, robbery, rape, and horse stealing. We'll take our final break here. Good thing that's kind of lightened up a little bit. We're going to take our final break here. Come back with about 2 or 3 minutes. My guest this morning, Jack Browning and Herb Cranford, district attorneys in our area. Community Voice brought to you by Tanner Health System and Oak Mountain Academy.
Health is a journey. It's making better choices, even when it's not easy. It's taking care of yourself and the people you love. At Tanner Health System, we're there for you with every step, with primary care, heart care, cancer care, women's care, orthopedics, surgical services, and so much more. We're dedicated to helping you live and feel your best. So let's get on that journey to health. You've got places to be for many years to come. Find us at tanner.org.
As a believer in the power of education, we are called to set the standard by shaping and empowering the minds of future generations through quality education. Oak Mountain Academy embraces this philosophy, which is why my children attend this prestigious school. I am elated to serve on the OMA Board of Trustees, where together we prepare students and remind them to trust and believe in the power to transform the world. I'm Dr. Brian Bain, inviting you to celebrate our 60-year legacy of academic excellence. Visit us at oakmountain.us.
8:56. Welcome back to the WLBB Community Voice, News Talk 1330 FM 106.3. DAs in our program this morning, Jack Browning and Herb Cranford, and I got about 2 or 3 minutes, and I hate to leave you out of this conversation, Jack, but an eighth judge, Coweta Judicial Circuit, will get an eighth judge, and that was signed into law. Governor Kemp did. Is that going to benefit you? We talked about splitting the circuit a little bit. How's that going to benefit, having that eighth judge?
Well, one way it benefits is for every judge you have, you get a state-funded assistant DA. So it adds one person to our office. But we need a lot more, frankly. But yeah, I mean, I think as the caseload grows, you need more judges, just like you need more prosecutors, just like you need more public defenders. So I think this was good and necessary. I'm supporting my chief assistant, Jep Bendinger, to get the appointment from the governor. He was on the short list, got an interview with Governor Kemp when our newest Superior Court Judge, Erica Tysinger, got the appointment this past fall, I think it was. And, I'm a big fan of hers as well. But so I'm hopeful Jep gets it, and it'll be good to add a judge regardless.
And that'll begin in January, that new term. It'll be a 2-year term of appointment, and then it'll go to the election.
Believe that is all correct.
All right.
Yep.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
I wish we had
Thank
time
you for
for Jack to play us a song and play us out or something. You have like a pocket
Yeah,
fiddle.
usually when I'm here, I've got a mandolin or a guitar, right?
Yeah. Well, congratulations on a long, good career, and
It's still a ways away. I mean,
Okay.
my term ends next December, not this December.
And I guess the election is probably a year from right now, maybe next May.
Yeah, so well, they haven't announced it, but I would assume if they keep it the same, the election will be next May.
All right, guys, have a good weekend. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate it.
Appreciate
And
it.
good to talk to you for 2 hours. But
Yeah.
all right, and thank you for listening this morning. And if you missed some of the program, it will be available on our website at newstalk1330.com, or you can always go watch it on Facebook if you missed any of it, because it'll be there forever. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Appreciate it.